We'd been on this godforsaken road trip for exactly 12 days, 12 days of winding through olive groves and whitewashed pueblos, pretending this was some grandmother-daughter substitute adventure my mom had cooked up before shipping me off to find myself in Spain. Mom thought Caroline, her old college roommate and eternal confidant, could glue me back together after the breakup that had left me hollowed out at 22. Caroline, with her poised Manhattan grace and stories of boardroom battles, was supposed to be the steady hand. But as the tires spun uselessly in the slick clay, hydroplaning us toward a ditch, I realized steady hands could shatter just as easily as frantic ones. The car lurched to a halt, engine coughing its last like a dying animal. Water sheeted down the windshield, blurring the world into a watercolor smear of green hills and gray storm. Caroline unbuckled, her silk scarf already sodden, and turned to me with those blue eyes that always seemed to see too much. "Anna, it's okay. We're okay." But her voice trembled just enough to betray her, and in that moment, stranded in the heart of nowhere, I wondered if she'd ever been as lost as I felt right then. File 1. The storm had chased us from Granada that morning, a spiteful tale to the Alhambra's ancient arches we'd wandered in awed silence the day before. I'd been mesmerized by the intricate tilework, the way light filtered through lattice windows like whispered confessions, but Caroline had lingered by the Court of the Lions, tracing the fountain's marble with a fingertip as if remembering a touch long faded. "This place," she'd said softly, "it's all about hidden gardens and forbidden loves. Makes you think, doesn't it?" I'd nodded, pretending the heat in my cheeks was from the sun, not the way her gaze had lingered on me a beat too long. Now, with the engine dead and our phones showing 0 bars, the romance of Spain felt like a cruel joke. We scrambled out into the deluge, hoods up against the assault, and popped the hood to stare at the tangle of wires and belts like we had any clue what to do. Caroline, ever the problem solver, rummaged in the glove box for the rental manual, her blonde waves plastered to her neck in dark streaks. At 38, she looked like she'd stepped out of a J.Crew catalog even in crisis, tailored blouse clinging just so, khakis mud-splattered but somehow still chic. Me? I was a mess of 22-year-old chaos, curls frizzing into a halo of defeat, green eyes squinting against the rain, my thrift store hoodie sagging like a defeated flag. "Overheating, probably," she diagnosed after a futile scan of the pages, her voice steady as she slammed the hood shut. "We need to wait it out. Flag down help if it comes." The road stretched empty in both directions, flanked by cork oaks twisted like old men in prayer. No pueblos in sight, just the relentless patter turning earth to soup. We retreated to the car, dripping and shivering, the leather seats soaking up our misery. As the wipers slapped back and forth in futile rhythm, silence settled like a third passenger. I'd known Caroline peripherally my whole life, holiday parties where she'd arrive with armfuls of artisanal cheeses and tales of her latest TEDx talk on sustainable fashion. Mom adored her, your Auntie Caro, the one who made it without selling her soul. But up close, like this, she was a revelation. The faint scar above her eyebrow from a skiing mishap in Aspen, the way she hummed Ella Fitzgerald under her breath when she thought no one listened. And those eyes, piercing blue, like the Mediterranean on a clear day, holding depths I was only starting to glimpse. "You want to talk about it?" she asked finally, twisting in her seat to face me. The rain drummed a staccato on the roof, muffling the world outside. "Talk about what?" I shot back, too quick, too defensive. My fingers toyed with the frayed hem of my jeans, a habit from the endless therapy sessions post-breakup. Sarah had been my everything, fiery redhead, art school dropout, the girl who'd painted murals on my apartment walls and promised forever in graffiti scrawl. Then came the texts, the late nights, the admission over cheap Merlot. "It's not you, Anna. I just need space." Space. As if love was a closet you could rearrange. Caroline's gaze didn't waver. "Whatever's got you flooring it through a monsoon like you're auditioning for Mad Max?" A small smile tugged her lips, softening the edges. "Your mom mentioned things. The ex. The job you quit. The quarter-life crisis phase." I laughed, bitter and sharp, the sound echoing in the confined space. Mom's version or the real one? Because in hers, I'm probably just going through a phase, like that time I dyed my hair blue and she prayed for my immortal soul. Catholic guilt, Southern roots, my mom's Louisiana drawl still echoed in my head, even here in Catholic Spain. The real one, Caroline said gently, reaching over to squeeze my knee. Her touch was warm through the denim, electric in its brevity. She pulled back quick, like she'd scorched herself. I'm here, kiddo. No judgments. Kiddo. The word stung, a reminder of the chasm between us, not just 16 years, but worlds. She with her Upper East Side brownstone and nonprofit empire, me with student loans and a barista gig I'd walked out on after one too many soy latte demands. But in that rain-lashed car, the chasm felt bridgeable. I spilled it all, the betrayal of finding Sarah's burner phone, the hollow ache of packing her things into boxes that smelled like her vanilla perfume, the way I'd booked this trip on a whim, begging Mom to let me tag along with Caroline as her +1 for the cultural jaunt. I thought Spain would fix me, I admitted, voice cracking. You know, flamenco and sangria and all that bullshit. But it's just me, still broken. Caroline listened without interruption, her face a map of empathy, furrowed brow, lips pressed thin. When I finished, she exhaled slow, like she'd been holding her breath for me. Spain doesn't fix you, Anna. Nothing does, not really. But it strips you down. Shows you the bones of who you are. She paused, staring out at the blurring landscape. I came here once, after my divorce. 20 years ago, felt like yesterday. Thought the sun would burn away the hurt. Instead, it just illuminated it. Divorce. I'd known vaguely, some Wall Street husband, a quick annulment, no kids. But the way she said it, laced with old gravel, made it real. What happened? I asked, hungering for her story like a lifeline. She hesitated, fingers drumming the dash. He was charming. Ambitious. We met at a gala, me in my first big consulting gig, him already climbing ladders. Married fast, built a life of crystal and corner offices. But love. That eroded like sea glass. Her voice dipped, confessional. I found out he was sleeping with his assistant. Not once, but seasons of it. The betrayal. It rewired me. Made me question every "I love you" I'd ever said. The rain eased to a drizzle, mirroring the softening in her tone. I wanted to reach for her hand, to bridge that shared scar tissue, but fear clamped me still. Instead, I murmured, sounds like Sarah. Except she didn't even bother with seasons, just one long goodbye. We sat there, two women forged in fires we hadn't chosen, the storm's fury spent. Eventually, headlights pierced the gloom, a battered Fiat puttering from the east. Caroline flagged it down with efficient waves, and out tumbled a grizzled farmer in a poncho, his Spanish rapid-fire and mercifully equipped with a satellite phone. 20 minutes and a tow truck later, we were rumbling toward a roadside inn in the shadow of Ronda's Puente Nuevo, the famous bridge spanning a gorge like a scar across the earth. The inn was a relic. Terracotta tiles, iron lanterns flickering against white stucco, the air thick with garlic and wood smoke from the kitchen. The proprietress, a stout woman named Maria with a smile like sun-cracked earth, ushered us to adjoining rooms, towels heaped in our arms. La tormenta pasa, she assured, but rest now. Mañana, the world is new. In my room, I stripped off the wet layers, the mirror reflecting a stranger, hollow cheeks, eyes shadowed but alive with something unnamed. Caroline knocked once, peeking in with a bottle of Rioja and 2 glasses. Truce? She asked, that smile again, tentative as dawn. We drank on my balcony, the gorge yawning below like a secret kept too long. The wine loosened tongues, and stories flowed, hers of New York winters and boardroom wars, mine of New Orleans jazz funerals and college crushes that fizzled like fireworks. Laughter came easy, surprising us both. As the stars pricked the velvet sky, her foot brushed mine under the table, accidental but lingering. Neither pulled away. That night, sleep evaded me, the thin walls carrying the murmur of her turning pages, a novel, perhaps, or her own thoughts. I pictured her there, blonde hair spilling over the pillow, and a warmth bloomed low in my belly, unfamiliar and insistent. It wasn't just gratitude, it was gravity, pulling me toward her orbit. But she was Caroline, Mom's friend, the untouchable icon. And I was Anna, the kid still learning to stand. Little did I know, the real storm was just beginning. Dawn broke over Rhonda like a promise half-kept, mist clinging to the gorgeous edges as we nursed hangovers with strong coffee and Maria's fresh pan con tomate. The tow truck had delivered our car to a mechanic in town, diagnosis, a cracked radiator, parts en route from Malaga. 2 days, maybe 3, the grease monkey grunted in broken English, wiping hands on a rag that had seen better decades. Caroline bartered him down to €150 with her flawless Spanglish, then turned to me with a wink. See? Always negotiate. Life's too short for full price. We filled the limbo with Rhonda's rhythms, mornings hiking the serpentine paths to the bullring, where Hemingway's ghost lingered in the sand-scented air, afternoons in tucked away Tabernas, sampling Jamon Iberico that melted like forbidden fruit. Caroline moved through it all with effortless poise, her linen dresses swaying like wheat in the breeze, drawing glances from locals and tourists alike. I trailed her, half in awe, half in envy, wishing I could borrow her confidence like a scarf. One afternoon, in the shade of the Mondragon Palace gardens, we found a bench overlooking almond blossoms. The air hummed with bees, and for once, words weren't needed. She leaned back, eyes closed, and I studied her, the fine lines fanning from her lids, the pulse at her throat steady as a metronome. "What are you thinking?" she asked without opening her eyes, voice lazy with heat. "That you look like you belong here," I said truthfully. Like some duchess from a Garcia Marquez novel, exiled but unbreakable. She chuckled, low and warm. "Flattery will get you everywhere, Anna." Then, softer, "But I don't belong anywhere, really. New York's home by default, work, friends, the grind. After the divorce, I built walls higher than the Puerta de Almancar." She gestured to the ancient gate across the way, its Moorish arches defiant against time. I swallowed, the words bubbling up unbidden. What if the walls are keeping out the good stuff too? It was bold, reckless even, but the sun made me brave. Her eyes opened, locking on mine, and in that suspended breath, I saw it, a flicker of hunger, mirrored and magnified. That evening, we splurged on a flamenco show in a cave grotto, the air thick with sweat and sorrow. The dancer, a woman in her 40s with raven hair and fire in her hips, stamped her story into the stone floor: loss, lust, redemption. Caroline's hand found mine in the dim light, fingers interlacing as if by instinct. I didn't breathe, afraid to shatter it. When the singer's voice cracked on a raw gypsy lament, tears traced Caroline's cheeks. I thumbed them away without thinking, my touch lingering on her jaw. "Beautiful," I whispered, meaning more than the performance. Back at the inn, the air between us crackled like the storm's echo. We lingered in the courtyard, wine forgotten on the table, the fountain's trickle the only sound. "Anna," she started, voice husky, "this. Us. It's complicated." Her hand covered mine, thumb stroking the back in slow circles. "Your mom trusts me to look after you. And God, you're like seeing sunlight after years underground." My heart hammered, a wild thing caged. Then let it in. The sunlight. I leaned closer, the scent of her, jasmine and rain, flooding my senses. Our lips met tentative, a brush of silk on silk, then deepening as dams broke. It was fire and forgiveness, her hands framing my face with a tenderness that undid me. We kissed until the world narrowed to the press of her body against mine, until Maria's distant "Buenas noches" scattered us like startled birds. In my room, alone, I replayed it, the taste of her, the way she'd sighed my name like a prayer. But doubt crept in with the shadows. Was this real, or just Spain's spell? And what of the betrayal lurking, unspoken? The next day brought sun and salvation, the car fixed, parts miraculously arrived. We drove west towards Seville, windows down, the radio crooning Rosalia's sultry beats. Laughter came freer, touches lingered, her hand on my thigh during a hairpin turn, my head on her shoulder at a vista stop. We were falling, reckless and radiant, into something neither could name. Seville welcomed us with orange-scented breezes and the Alcazar's labyrinthine beauty. We wandered its patios hand in secret hand, stealing kisses behind tiled screens. "This is madness," Caroline murmured one twilight, as we picnicked on the riverbank, Guadalquivir lapping at our feet. "Delicious madness." Her fingers traced patterns on my palm, spelling futures we dared not voice. But cracks spiderwebbed in. That night, over tapas in a Triana bar, her phone buzzed incessantly. She silenced it twice, then excused herself to the alley. I watched from the window, heart sinking as her posture stiffened, voice rising in clipped tones. When she returned, her smile was a mask, eyes shadowed. Work, she dismissed, but the lie hung heavy. The following morning, as we queued for the cathedral, it erupted. Her phone rang again, insistent, American ringtone slicing the air. She answered, turning away, but Spanish chatter carried fragments. "Not now, Richard. I told you, it's complicated." "No, she's not." "Richard." The name landed like a slap. I'd overheard Mom once, years back, Caroline seeing this guy, Richard, solid, you know. Finally moving on. Engaged? No, but close enough. A weekend in the Hamptons, rings shopped in secret. Betrayal, hot and immediate, coiled in my gut. "Who's he?" I demanded later, in our hotel room overlooking the Giralda's golden spire. The door clicked shut like a guillotine. She deflated, sinking onto the bed. "An old friend. We've been circling each other. Dinner dates, talks of more. It's safe, Anna. Predictable." Her eyes pleaded, but I was already fracturing. "Safe? While you're here kissing me like it's the end of the world." My voice rose, echoing off the frescoes. "You let me believe." "I know." She stood, reaching, but I recoiled. "It started before this trip. Before us. But you changed everything. Made me want more than safe." Tears burned my eyes, the Seville sun mocking our drama. "You should have told me. From the start." The words tasted like ash. I grabbed my bag, storming out into the labyrinthine streets, her calls fading behind me. I wandered for hours, losing myself in the Barrio Santa Cruz's narrow alleys, the walls closing in like my chest. Flamenco guitars wailed from open windows, a soundtrack to my unraveling. Sarah's ghost joined Caroline's, betrayals layered like sedimentary rock, each heavier than the last. By dusk, exhaustion won, I slumped on a plaza bench, watching lovers entwine under lanterns, wondering if trust was just another myth, like happily ever after. Caroline found me at midnight, her face streaked with worry, hair wild from the wind. "Anna, please." She knelt, heedless of the cobblestones, taking my hands. I ended it. Called him from the room. Told him I can't do safe anymore. Not when this, you, feels like coming alive. I searched her eyes, seeing the raw truth there, no masks, just vulnerability. "Why me?" I whispered, the question a lifetime in the making. "Because you see me," she said simply. Not the consultant, not the divorcee, not Mom's polished friend. Just Caroline. Scared and hopeful and human. We walked back in silence, arms linked, the city lights blurring through tears. That night, we didn't kiss, we talked until dawn, fears unpacked like fragile china, dreams dusted off after years in storage. It was intimacy deeper than skin, a mending stitch by stitch. But Seville's magic waned as we pressed on to Córdoba, the road straightening like resolve. Whispers of doubt lingered, was this sustainable? Mom's inevitable questions. The Atlantic waiting to swallow us home. In the Mesquita's forest of columns, striped arches like candy canes underfoot, we paused by the mihrab, its gold mosaic a blaze of faith and folly. Caroline slipped her hand into mine, public now, defiant. Whatever comes, she vowed, we face it together. I believed her. God, I wanted to. But fate, that capricious Andalusian, had one more twist in store. The final leg to Cadiz unfurled like a ribbon of redemption, golden beaches fringing the Costa de la Luz, the Atlantic's roar a constant companion. We drove with the top down, salt wind whipping our hair, stopping for impromptu swims in coves where the water was shockingly clear, like looking through truth unfiltered. Caroline taught me to body surf, her laughter pealing as waves tumbled us. I taught her to skip stones, our hands brushing in the foam. It was idle, fragile as sea glass, but we clung to it, building sandcastles of maybes against the tide. Cadiz, with its carnival spirit and sea-worn forts, felt like culmination. We rented a casita overlooking the bay, whitewashed walls hung with fishing nets, the air redolent of fried churros and brine. Evenings dissolved into walks on the Playa de la Victoria, barefoot in the surf, debating life's big nothings, favorite Scorsese films, hers, Goodfellas, mine, The Departed, the ethics of pineapple on pizza, unanimous nay. Her stories peeled back layers, childhood in Connecticut, coming out in the 90s to a family that loved fierce but quietly, the nonprofit she'd founded to empower queer women in business, a quiet revolution. You're a force, I told her one night, tangled in hammocks on the terrace, stars wheeling overhead. Like, how do you carry all that and still smile? She shifted, her hammock swaying closer, fingers grazing mine. Practice. And now. You make carrying it feel like flying. The kiss that followed was slow, reverent, a sealing of pacts unspoken. No rush, no desperation, just two souls aligning, the world fading to wave crash and heartbeat. But paradisey roads. The morning we were set to fly home, Barcelona layover, then JFK, disaster struck. My phone, silenced in a drawer, lit up with voicemails, Mom, frantic. Anna, call me. It's Caroline, something from her past. Richard. He knows. Called me, hysterical. Says she's unstable, that you're in danger. Danger. The word chilled me as I played the messages, Caroline still asleep beside me, her face soft in repose. Richard's voice followed, oily and unhinged, tell your daughter to stay away. Caroline's got issues, meds, breakdowns. She'll drag her down like she did me. I woke her gently, phone trembling in my hand. Her face drained of color as she listened, then fury blazed. Lies, she spat, but doubt flickered, enough to wound. We confronted it over café con leche in the casita's kitchen, the sea mocking our turmoil beyond the window. The divorce, as she confessed, voice steady but eyes haunted, it broke me more than I let on. Therapy, yes. Antidepressants for a stretch. But stable. Always. Richard. He couldn't handle the real me, so he rewrote the story. To save face. Why didn't you tell me? Hurt laced my words, sharp as salt in a cut. About the meds, the mess. I thought we were past walls. Tears welled, spilling over. I was scared you'd see the cracks and run. Like everyone else. She reached for me, but I stood, pacing the tiled floor. Betrayal again, not hers, but the echo of omissions, the fear that trust was just borrowed time. I need air, I choked, bolting to the beach. Waves gnashed at my ankles as I screamed into the wind, grief and rage a tempest of my own. Hours passed, the sun climbed, then dipped. When I returned, sunburnt and spent, Caroline waited on the terrace, a letter in her lap, handwritten, ink smudged. Read it, she said, voice raw. It was to Richard, dated that Seville night, I can't build on ruins. You've been kind, but kindness isn't love. Forgive me for choosing truth over comfort. Caroline. And below, a postscript for me, Anna, if this breaks us, know you mended me first. But I choose you, walls and all. If you'll have me. Sobs racked me as I collapsed into her arms, the letter crumpling between us. I'm sorry, I whispered. For doubting. For running. Forgiven, she murmured, holding tight. Always. We missed the flight, extensions filed with tear-streaked efficiency. Instead of Barcelona's bustle, we stayed, extending the casita week by week, weaving normalcy from the wreckage. Mornings became therapy sessions, her sharing journals from dark days, me unpacking Sarah's ghosts. Afternoons, we volunteered at a local LGBTQ center, teaching English to queer youth fleeing conservative enclaves, stories of courage that humbled us, reminded us love's quiet rebellions. One evening, as bioluminescent plankton lit the bay like fallen stars, Caroline knelt in the sand, not dramatic, but deliberate. No ring, just her hands in mine, eyes steady as the horizon. Anna Marie Thibodeau, you've stranded me in the best way, heart open, future wide. Be my partner. In the mess and the magic. Tears blurred the glow, but my yes was fierce, a vow etched in sea salt. We kissed to the waves' applause, the world vast and kind again. Homecoming was chaos, Mom's airport ambush, hugs laced with questions. Caroline. Really? But her eyes softened at our linked hands, seeing what Spain had forged. Richard faded to a footnote, his barbs blunted by time. Back in New York, life reshaped around us, her brownstone gaining my canvases. I'd picked up painting again, inspired by Andalusian light, my barista days traded for an internship at her nonprofit. Conflicts arose, of course, family dinners tense with unspoken histories, nights when old doubts whispered. But we faced them, therapists and all, building not on perfection, but on the human grit beneath. 2 years on, at a rooftop pride party overlooking the Hudson, rainbows aglow against the skyline, Caroline surprised me again. A simple band of Andalusian gold on my finger, engraved with Luz después de la tormenta. Light after the storm. We danced under string lights, her head on my shoulder, the city pulsing like a shared heartbeat. Stranded once, we'd found harbor, not in Spain's sun, but in each other's unpolished truths. Love, it turned out, wasn't a fix, it was the brave choice to keep showing up, scars and all. And in that, we were whole.